The woman found something strange on the side of the highway. In such a desolate place there was actually a museum. Driven by curiosity, the woman mustered her courage and walked toward it, but the closer she got to the building the weirder it felt. It was clearly an abandoned house that had been deserted for a long time, but on the door it said open at 11 o'clock. The woman checked the time, and decided to look around first. Unexpectedly she saw a car parked on the side, which was enough to prove that someone was inside. Who would build a museum in a place like this, and what could be the purpose of its existence? Just as the woman's mind was racing, she suddenly heard the sound of a door opening. A man dressed in outdated clothes walked out from inside. He had thought there would be many customers today, but it turned out only Daisy came. The man said he was the curator here, and told her if she was timid, she shouldn't go inside so easily. That only made Daisy even more curious. She couldn't wait to step inside, and that's when the story really began to reach its climax. When you finish watching it, it will definitely overturn your understanding. The curator first checked Daisy's backpack. After she passed the security check, he officially began this mysterious journey. But there were only some creepy statues inside. There didn't seem to be anything special about the place. The curator saw through Daisy's thoughts, so he took her to a larger exhibition hall. But unexpectedly the air conditioner broke down today. Inside were objects all related to crime. The curator said that every item here had a dark and eerie history behind it. Daisy was drawn to a helmet that looked like high-tech. Then the curator began to explain to her the origin of this thing. In a hospital located in New York, there was an independent scientific research institute, and the young curator had once worked there. That day Dr. Jeff was trying to save a patient, but because he didn't know the patient had taken antibiotics earlier, it caused him to give duplicate medication and the patient died. That made Daisy feel extremely regretful. If they could sense the patient's pain, the tragedy could have been completely avoided. At that moment the curator approached Jeff, saying he might be able to help him solve this problem. Then under the curator's lead, the two entered this mysterious research facility. They developed a device that could sense other living beings' neural signals, which meant that as long as someone wore the device, the receiver could experience any feeling from the other person. The curator said if doctors could accept this experiment, they could truly feel the patient's pain, and yet suffer no harm themselves. It was basically like having the ability to read minds. Jeff agreed without hesitation, and successfully had the neural receiver implanted through surgery. They placed the device on the tester's head. The curator poked the woman's hand with a pencil, and Jeff could feel the sting on his fingertip too. With the help of this miraculous invention, Jeff managed to save countless lives, but he also endured all kinds of indescribable pain. With the help of this device, Jeff could easily find the cause of a patient's illness. His reputation in the hospital gradually grew. Even his life after work was twice as joyful, until the day one patient appeared, which completely changed his fate. It was a kind of pain Jeff had never felt before. He experienced an unprecedented level of suffering, but he didn't know what the illness was, until the numbers on the monitor dropped to 0. Jeff fainted along with the death of the patient. Later they learned, the man had been poisoned, and Jeff had personally experienced what it felt like to take a trip through hell and back. From that moment on, he became obsessed with pain. When it came to the suffering of patients, he felt an unspeakable pleasure, like how people are addicted to chili peppers. Once you taste it, you can never quit. Since then Jeff spent every day in the hospital. Whenever there were no patients, he became irritable and restless. That night an emergency patient was finally brought in. Jeff looked at him like a hunter spotting prey. He was lost in the patient's pain, unable to pull away. Even after the old man died of a heart attack, Jeff still refused to reveal the cause of death. His colleagues noticed something was wrong with him, so they joined forces to drag Jeff out of the ward. But it felt to him like they had stolen his prey. Jeff became furious. He went to the curator, hoping to end the experiment. But recently they had started a new scientific project, and couldn't assign professionals to perform the surgery. Jeff had no choice but to wait a few more days. However, when he got home he was in unbearable torment. A shattered glass suddenly cut his finger, which triggered his nerves again. Then an evil thought arose in his mind. He picked up a shard from the floor, and stabbed it into his finger. The instant pain felt strangely satisfying, but that opened Pandora's box. He began to torture his own body in various ways. Luckily he was a surgeon, so he perfectly avoided the vital parts. But as time went by, he could no longer satisfy his desire. So one dark windy night, he found a homeless man on the street. Jeff pulled out his stun baton, and shocked the man unconscious. Then he put a hood over the man's head, picked up a power drill, and aimed it at his skull. That once again let Jeff feel the thrill of near death. But after that, Jeff turned into a vegetable. Daisy stared at the device before her in disbelief. After finishing the story, the curator began to sweat heavily, because the air conditioner had broken down. He became dry-mouthed and parched. Seeing this, Daisy quickly took out a bottle of water from her bag. After the curator finished drinking, he began to tell the story of the creepy toy monkey, and it was also the saddest one in the whole museum. The story started with an unfortunate family of 3. The wife was about to take a photo of her family, but an accident happened all of a sudden. Although the woman survived, she became a permanent vegetable. The husband stayed by her side all along, but after several years, there was still no miracle. Until one day the curator curator found the man, and said they were developing a new project that could help solve his troubles. They could extract the woman's consciousness in digital form and place it into the host's brain. Simply put, humans only use 40% of their brain capacity. Most of it is left idle. With this technology, they could place the woman's consciousness inside the man's brain. They would share the same sensations, and she could see everything the man saw. After much thought, the man finally agreed to their plan. It might be the only way to bring his wife back to him. As the doctor extracted the woman's consciousness, he then implanted it into the man's brain. The moment he opened his eyes, his wife appeared in a virtual space, and through the man's perspective, she could clearly see the outside world. She could even talk to her husband. The man could hardly believe he could actually hear his wife's voice so clearly. The curator told the man to take a bite of an apple. The woman inside felt the same sensation. The man nervously took a bite, and the taste of the apple instantly reached the wife's mouth.
So long since I tasted anything.
The husband could hardly believe it. He excitedly picked up their daughter beside him, and the wife finally felt the child she had longed for day and night. They thought it was a great invention, but without realizing it, they were defeated by the trivialities of life. Problems between them began to surface. The woman complained that her husband's books were too shallow, but the man thought that was what happiness should be. In daily habits, the husband never washed his hands after using the bathroom, which the wife couldn't tolerate. He also loved watching crime shows, but the woman thought that was bad for their child. The man could no longer stand his wife's nagging. He angrily opened the fridge, grabbed the food she hated most, and ate it without hesitation. The woman was instantly disgusted by the taste. The man had no privacy at all. Helpless, he went to the curator for help. He complained that his wife's control desire was too strong, that his brain was about to explode. To help the man solve this tricky problem, the curator gave him a special privilege. They upgraded his system for free, so he could turn off his wife's consciousness anytime with his phone. On his way home, the man met a hot woman in the elevator. He just took a quick glance, and was instantly scolded by his wife. Even his physical reactions couldn't escape her perception. That caused another argument between them. The man couldn't take it anymore. He angrily turned off the system. When the woman was awakened again, she realized months had passed. She couldn't understand her husband's behavior, but for the sake of their child, she chose to compromise. They made an agreement that except on holidays, the woman would stay turned off, like visitation rights after a divorce. But that kind of life didn't last long. The appearance of the female neighbor broke the peace. The man gradually fell for her. He even took the child out with her. Watching them play with her husband and daughter, the wife felt a deep sense of sorrow. They argued once again because of it, so they went to the curator for answers. The curator suggested a removal surgery, but the man said that was too inhumane, and their child couldn't live without a mother. So the curator offered another plan. He took a toy monkey out of a drawer. It could also hold a sensory receiver. The monkey's eyes were cameras. Through them she could see the world. After the curator's long persuasion, they finally agreed to the plan. But when the woman was awakened again, she found herself trapped inside the toy. Her voice could not be transmitted. The monkey's program was still unfinished. She could only express emotions through buttons on the chair. One button for happy, and the other for sad.
Monkey loves you. Monkey needs a hug.
The wife completely broke down. She kept hitting the buttons over and over, which made the female neighbor uncomfortable. The neighbor began to threaten her with death. Staring at the woman who had taken everything from her, the wife could do nothing. And that was when Daisy realized the so-called museum was actually a collection of criminal artifacts. After the United Nations declared consciousness transfer illegal, the toy monkey was stored here. Even today, the woman's consciousness was still inside.
Monkey needs a hug.
She's still in there.
Because deletion was also illegal. And inside this dark museum, there was also one prized exhibit, a living breathing slave, trapped inside. His face was blank with no reaction. After the curator's introduction, Daisy realized it was a holographic 3D projection, or rather his consciousness form. Turns out the man was a death row inmate. The curator planned to buy the man's consciousness, and in return, the man's family would receive a huge fortune. Thinking his family would live worry-free, the man agreed to sell his own soul. The moment he sat in the electric chair, the curator used black technology to upload the man's consciousness online. With the help of the holographic projection, the virtual man appeared in the museum. But what he never expected was, when the curator flipped the switch, Daisy instantly sat in the electric chair again. As the current passed through, he suffered the pain of electrocution once more. Every volt of electricity shot through the man's head. The curator knew the human limit was 15 seconds. To make the man the museum's golden attraction, he set the safety time to 10 seconds. After the tech company went bankrupt, the curator decided to make a living on his own. Soon the museum's business started booming, and most people who came were there just for the man. They vented their anger on him, building their joy upon his suffering. To spread the reputation even further, the curator even made souvenirs of the electrocution, also satisfying the twisted vanity of sick customers. The man was tortured like this for years. Just when the curator got excited while talking, he suddenly felt his throat tighten. While Daisy calmly watched him, the curator painfully slammed against the glass. He never would have thought before dying that the woman in front of him was the man's daughter. Turns out her father had been framed. After her mother's repeated appeals, her husband's name was finally cleared. But because he signed a contract with the museum, no matter how much his wife protested, the man remained trapped there. The museum's business grew colder and colder, and was despised by almost everyone. To keep the money coming in, the curator even increased the shock duration to please those sick customers, until one particular customer showed up. Seeing the pile of cash in his hand, the curator once again lost his principles, and the man became a vegetable because of it. Later the wife came to the museum, and when she saw her husband tortured into unconsciousness, she completely broke down. After returning home she fell into despair, and eventually ended her own life in depression. Today happened to be her father's birthday. The bottle of water the curator drank earlier had already been tampered with by Daisy, and the air conditioner malfunction was also sabotaged before she came in. Then she took out the consciousness extractor, and right before the curator's death, she downloaded all of his consciousness. She wanted to take revenge the same way, by transferring his soul into her father's virtual body. She wanted the curator to feel her father's pain himself, but this time, she didn't set any limit. The curator would loop endlessly in the man's body. Her father was finally freed from his torment. The curator was turned into a meme. In the end Daisy took the pitiful toy monkey, and left this place forever, while the Black Museum eventually vanished from the world.